Have you ever felt the sting of being deliberately excluded from a family member's most important day? I still remember the moment I opened my mailbox, expecting to find my sister's wedding invitation, only to find nothing but bills and junk mail. For 3 years, we didn't speak after that day. But what happened when my teenage son decided to take matters into his own hands changed everything about our relationship. Stay until the end to discover how a single moment of courage from my son mended a family that had been broken for years. Welcome to Plot Twist Life, where real stories of unexpected moments that change everything come to life. Before I dive into how my sister's wedding snub led to one of the most powerful reconciliations of my life, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another life-changing story that might just help you navigate your own family dramas. I grew up believing that my younger sister Emily and I would always be each other's biggest supporters. We shared a bedroom for 16 years, whispered secrets late into the night, and promised to be each other's maids of honor someday. But life has a way of complicating even the most solid relationships. Our family dynamic wasn't perfect. Our parents divorced when I was 14 and Emily was 12. I took on a protective role, trying to shield Emily from the worst of their arguments. Maybe that's where things started to go wrong. As we grew older, that protectiveness morphed into something that felt more like control to her. At least, that's what she told me during our last explosive argument. I'd moved out at 18 to attend college in Boston, while Emily stayed in our hometown of Portland. The physical distance didn't help matters. During those college years, we drifted apart in ways I didn't fully recognize until it was too late. I was busy building my career in marketing, and Emily was working at a local gallery, pursuing her passion for art. Looking back, I can see how my occasional comments about her finding a real job or settling down must have felt judgmental rather than concerned. But at the time, I genuinely thought I was looking out for her. The truth is, I was projecting my own insecurities onto her life. While I was climbing the corporate ladder, part of me envied her freedom to pursue her passions. Our relationship deteriorated gradually, like a slow leak that eventually empties an entire tank. But the breaking point came at our mother's 60th birthday party. Emily had brought her boyfriend, James, whom she'd been dating for about 6 months. I'd met him once before, and had reservations. He seemed controlling and dismissive of Emily's art career. During the party, I overheard him making a condescending remark about her latest exhibition. I couldn't help myself. I pulled Emily aside and told her that James wasn't good enough for her, that she deserved someone who supported her dreams. I expected gratitude. Instead, I got rage. "You always do this," she hissed, her face flushed with anger. "You think you know what's best for everyone. You've been trying to run my life since we were kids, and I'm sick of it. You don't know James, and you certainly don't know me anymore." "Emily, I'm just trying to protect you," I said, feeling defensive and hurt. "I don't need your protection," she fired back. "I need you to respect that I'm an adult, capable of making my own decisions. But you can't do that, can you?" The conversation escalated, with years of unspoken resentments surfacing like debris after a storm. Our mother tried to intervene, but the damage was done. Emily and I didn't speak for the rest of the evening. I told myself she would cool off, that she would realize I was coming from a place of love. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, I called to apologize, but the conversation went nowhere. Emily was civil but distant, and I could feel the wall between us strengthening. We fell into a pattern of obligatory holiday calls and occasional text messages. It was a pale imitation of the relationship we once had. Then, about a year after our fight, my son Tyler came home from school one day with news that knocked the wind out of me. "Mom, did you know Aunt Emily is getting married?" he asked casually, as if he hadn't just dropped a bomb in our kitchen. "What? Who told you that?" I asked, my hands freezing over the vegetables I was chopping for dinner. "Madison, you know, my friend whose mom works at the Lakeside Event Center. She said her mom is handling a wedding for an Emily Harrington next month. That's Aunt Emily, right?" I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. My sister was getting married, and I had to hear about it from my 14-year-old son's friend's mother. Not from Emily, not from our mother, not even from a formal invitation. That night, I cried for hours after Tyler went to bed. The exclusion felt deliberate and cruel. I thought about calling her, demanding an explanation, but pride stopped me. If she didn't want me at her wedding, fine. I wouldn't beg for an invitation. The next few weeks were a blur of hurt and anger. I wavered between wanting to confront Emily and wanting to pretend I didn't know about the wedding at all. In the end, I did nothing. The day of her wedding came and went, and I spent it cleaning out my garage with a fury that had nothing to do with organization and everything to do with distraction. Life went on. I threw myself into work in Tyler's activities. Emily and James bought a house in the suburbs of Portland. We saw each other at Christmas and Thanksgiving, exchanging pleasantries that never ventured beyond the surface. The wedding went unmentioned, a gaping hole in our family narrative that everyone carefully stepped around. 3 years passed this way. Then came Tyler's 18th birthday. He was graduating high school, preparing for college, becoming the thoughtful young man I'd always hoped he'd be. For his birthday, I planned a small family gathering, just the two of us. My parents, who had managed to establish a cordial relationship post-divorce, and a few of Tyler's closest friends. I didn't invite Emily. It wasn't out of spite. It was out of habit. We'd settled into our distant roles, and I assumed she wouldn't want to come anyway. The evening before his birthday, Tyler and I were sitting at the kitchen table, finalizing plans for the party. "Mom, I invited Aunt Emily," he said suddenly, looking up from his phone. I felt like I'd been slapped. "You what?" "I invited Aunt Emily and Uncle James to my birthday. They're coming tomorrow." "Tyler, why would you do that without asking me?" I tried to keep my voice calm, but I could hear the strain in it. He put his phone down and looked at me directly, with a maturity that sometimes still catches me off guard. "Because she's family. And I'm tired of whatever this is between you two. It's complicated, Tyler. There are things you don't understand. Then help me understand," he challenged, "because from where I'm sitting, it looks like both of you are too stubborn to fix something that's clearly broken." I started to explain about the wedding, about how hurt I'd been not to be invited. But even as I spoke, the words sounded petty and small. Tyler listened patiently, then asked the question that would change everything. "Did you ever ask her why? Like, actually ask, not just assume." I hadn't. I'd been so wrapped up in my own hurt that I'd never directly asked Emily why she hadn't invited me to her wedding. I'd constructed a narrative in my head that she was punishing me, that she didn't want me there, but I'd never verified it. "I thought so," Tyler said when I didn't answer. "Tomorrow's going to be interesting." I barely slept that night, alternating between rehearsing confrontational speeches and planning how to avoid Emily entirely. By morning, I was exhausted and no closer to a strategy. The party started at 3. Emily and James arrived at 3:15, bearing gifts and uncertain smiles. I greeted them politely, painfully aware of my parents watching us like referees at a boxing match. We managed small talk for about an hour before Tyler gathered everyone in the living room for cake. After we sang happy birthday and Tyler blew out his candles, he cleared his throat. "Before I open presents, I want to say something," he announced. "I'm really grateful to have all of you here today. My family means everything to me, and it hurts to see it fractured." The room went silent. My father shifted uncomfortably. My mother studied her cake plate with sudden interest. "I know adults think teenagers don't notice things, but we do," Tyler continued. "And I've noticed that my mom and my aunt haven't really been talking for years now. I don't know all the reasons why, but I know that life's too short for this kind of stuff." I wanted to sink into the floor. Emily was staring at her hands, her cheeks flushed. "So," Tyler said, reaching behind the couch and pulling out a small, wrapped package. "I have an extra birthday gift, but it's not for me. Mom, this is for you to give to Aunt Emily." He handed me the package. It was small and lightweight, wrapped in silver paper with a blue bow. I took it automatically, too shocked to resist. "Tyler, what is this?" I asked quietly. "Something you should have given her a long time ago," he said. "Go on." With trembling hands, I held the package out to Emily. She hesitated before taking it, her expression guarded. "You don't have to open it now," I said awkwardly. "No, I think I do," she replied, carefully unwrapping the paper. Inside was a small, velvet jewelry box. Emily opened it and gasped softly. She lifted out a delicate silver bracelet with a single charma palette with tiny colored stones representing paint. It was identical to the one our grandmother had given me when I graduated high school. Grandma had promised Emily a matching one for her graduation, but she passed away before she could give it to her. "I don't understand," Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "How did you... After Grandma died, I found it in her jewelry box," I explained, the words tumbling out. "I was going to give it to you at your high school graduation, but then you decided to defer college for your art apprenticeship. And I made that stupid comment about real education, and we fought. I kept it, thinking I'd give it to you when the time was right. But then we stopped really talking," Emily finished for me. "I told Tyler about it a few years ago," I admitted. "I didn't realize he'd remember." Emily slipped the bracelet onto her wrist, blinking rapidly. "I always wondered if Grandma had actually made one for me," she said softly. An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. My parents exchanged looks. James studied the ceiling with exaggerated interest. Tyler, however, wasn't finished with his intervention. "Aunt Emily," he said, "my mom thinks you didn't invite her to your wedding because you were still mad about whatever happened at Great-Grandma's birthday party." Emily's head snapped up. "What?" "That's not..." She stopped abruptly, looking at me with dawning comprehension. "You think I deliberately didn't invite you to my wedding? You didn't send me an invitation," I said, feeling defensive again. What was I supposed to think? "I sent your invitation to your old address on Maple Street," Emily said slowly. "The one you had before you moved to the townhouse. Mom told me it had been returned to sender, but she said she'd tell you about the wedding. She said you didn't want to come." We both turned to look at our mother, who had the grace to look ashamed. "I thought I was helping," she said weakly. "You two were barely speaking. I didn't want Emily to be hurt when you didn't show up, and I didn't want you to feel obligated to attend when you were still so angry. So you lied to both of us?" I asked, incredulous. "It seemed kinder at the time," she said. "I realize now it was a mistake." Emily was staring at me, her eyes wide. "You really thought I would get married without inviting my only sister? After all those promises we made as kids? You were so angry with me," I said. "And we barely spoke for months before the wedding. It hurt, but I thought you didn't want me there." "I was angry," Emily admitted, "but not enough to exclude you from my wedding. James and I even delayed setting a date for months, hoping you and I would reconcile first." I felt lightheaded. 3 years of hurt and anger suddenly recontextualized. "I had no idea," I whispered. "This is why people should talk to each other," Tyler interjected, shaking his head with the exasperation only a teenager can master. "Seriously, adults are supposed to be better at communication than we are." A startled laugh escaped me, and then Emily was laughing too, the tension in the room finally breaking. "When did you get so wise?" Emily asked Tyler, wiping at her eyes. "Someone in this family had to be," he replied with a grin. After the party, Emily and I sat on my back porch while the others cleaned up inside. We talked for hours, really talked, for the first time in years. She showed me wedding photos on her phone, pictures I should have been in. I told her about promotions and challenges at work that she'd missed. We didn't resolve everything that night, but we made a start. "I'm sorry I tried to control your life," I said as the evening grew late. "I think I was just scared of losing you after Mom and Dad split up. You were the one constant in my life, and I held on too tight. And I'm sorry I shut you out," Emily replied. "It was easier than confronting the problems between us. I should have tried harder." Before she left, she hugged me fiercely. "Don't be a stranger," she whispered. 3 years is too long." As I watched her and James drive away, Tyler came to stand beside me. "Thank you," I said, putting my arm around his shoulders. "You orchestrated quite the birthday surprise." "I'm just glad it worked," he said. For a minute there, I thought Grandma was going to ruin everything with her confession. I laughed. Your timing was impeccable. How long have you been planning this? Since I found the bracelet in your jewelry box last year, he admitted. I was looking for the earrings you said I could give to Zoe for our 6-month anniversary. You've been plotting this for a year. I was astonished. He shrugged. Family's important. And you were both miserable. Someone had to do something. In the months that followed, Emily and I rebuilt our relationship, one coffee date, one phone call, one text message at a time. It wasn't always smooth. We had years of misunderstandings to navigate, but we were both committed to trying. 6 months after Tyler's birthday, Emily announced that she and James were renewing their vows for their 4th anniversary. It would be small, just immediate family, but she wanted me to be her maid of honor. This time, she delivered the invitation in person. The ceremony was simple but beautiful, held in the garden of their suburban home. As I stood beside my sister, watching her recommit to the man she loved, I couldn't help but think about how close we'd come to losing each other for good. Later, as we sat together enjoying champagne, Emily reached over and squeezed my hand. I'm so glad you're here, she said softly. Me too, I replied, although we both know who really deserves the credit for that. We looked over to where Tyler was chatting animatedly with James about college plans. He's an amazing kid, Emily said. You did good, sis. I had some help, I admitted. It takes a village, right? And a very persistent nephew, she added with a laugh. As I drove home that night, I reflected on how a simple miscommunication had cost us 3 years of sisterhood. How pride and hurt had built a wall that seemed insurmountable until a teenager with a gift and a plan had torn it down. Family relationships are fragile things, easily damaged by assumptions and unspoken words. But they're also remarkably resilient when given the chance to heal. My sister didn't invite me to her wedding or so, I thought, and it nearly destroyed our relationship forever. But my son delivered more than just a gift when he intervened. He delivered a second chance that neither of us knew we needed. This experience taught me that sometimes the most powerful gift isn't the one in the box, it's the courage to reach out and mend what's broken. I'd love to hear your stories of family reconciliation or moments when a misunderstanding nearly cost you a precious relationship. Share your experiences in the comments below. If you found value in this story, please take a moment to subscribe to Plot Twist Life, where we share real stories that remind us how quickly life can change, sometimes with just one conversation, one decision, or one act of courage. Hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next video about how a chance encounter at an airport led to a 30-year mystery being solved. Until next time, remember that it's never too late to rewrite your family story.